Hello, my name is Joan Doyle and I am an artist and a library assistant here at the Canton Library, which is a branch of the Haywood County Public Libraries. Today I'm going to show you how to make a card, a floral card, which is suitable for many occasions. It's very simple, anyone can do it. I have put a little, the words I have put on it are I miss you. I think it's perfect for COVID times where you might not be seeing relatives or friends that you'd normally see, and you can always send them a card. You can say, I'm thinking of you. You can use it as a birthday card, a Mother's Day card, or just I love you card to someone you really care about. It's totally up to you. And you can make it like a folding card, or as I have done, just one simple card where you can write your message on the back. It's totally up to you. So let me talk about what you'll need to make the card. Well, of course, the first thing is your watercolor paper, which I have cut down to fit the envelope that I've chosen to send it in. The second thing you'll need, of course, are paints. And we only need 3 colors for this card: red, yellow, and blue. These are the primary colors. They mix to make most every color you might need. I also am using a little white for the final touch on the card. Of course, to use watercolor, you need water, and I've got a plate to mix my colors on. The last thing you need is a small to medium brush and a simple black pen. Everyone's got one of those at home. I tried Sharpie, but it blurs into the page, into the watercolor paper. And I find the black pen works just as easy or just as well. So now you know what you need. Let's get started. Okay, so we're now ready to begin our painting of our little card saying I miss you. And as I said, we're using predominantly 2 colors, the yellow and the red, but we've mixed yellow and blue to get our greens for our leaves. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do these spot colors for the flowers, and we're going to wait to do the green until the end. So the first thing I do before I start a painting is I, of course, get all my things, all my ducks in a row and all the things I'll need present and correct. And then I take a deep breath and I just say, I can do this. I know that this is something that is just going to flow through me, just like watercolors flow. Creativity flows through me. So that's my little philosophy, but let's begin. So I'm going to start with yellow. So I had red on my brush. I'm just going to clean that up. So I mix a tiny little bit of yellow. I've got it here on my plate, but I only need the tiniest amount. That's the nice thing about watercolors. They go a long way. So I'm going to start with the yellow flowers. And I'm not going to worry too much about the shape. So the main flower is yellow. And I imagine it's kind of like a tulip. It's got little petals. You can see the shapes on the top, and round for the most part. And then we've got 2 small ones. And that's a good thing to remember when you're creating a design is to make small, medium, and large shapes. So we're going to do a little small one, a medium one, and a large one. And those are the yellow flowers in this picture. Now I'm going to clean my brush of yellow. I'm going to take some of that red. I'm going to create a little one. And then a medium one. So you see the mix of my paint it's quite watery, but it's still got a lot of vibrancy to it. A medium red here, kind of leaning out. So I just drag the brush. See how it's kind of flowing? The water's flowing right there. We let it do its thing. I know I got a little droplet there. Doesn't matter, we can just leave it. I think it'll add to the design. And then maybe another medium one down here. Okay, so I've got a small, and most of these are mediums. Maybe we can make this one a little bit bigger, so it's small, medium, and large, just to keep with my own philosophy. It's good design. And so on the yellow ones, I'm going to add a little bit of red, and see, this is still wet. So if I drop a little water with the color in here at the base, it kind of spreads out into what's already there. I only want it at the base, nowhere else, just for interest. See how simple that is? Blobs of color, basically. And then on the red ones, just to give them a little bit of contrast, I'm going to use a little bit of blue. It gives this idea of shadow, maybe, at the base of the flower. Just a dab. I like to say that we're dropping color in rather than painting. See how I didn't use my brush a lot. Just dropped it in, and it kind of spreads. So we kind of let watercolor do what it likes to do. I think of watercolor as being alive. A shadow on that side of the yellow flowers, just for interest. Imagine the lights coming from this side. Okay, so we're done pretty much with the most of the painting part. So we've got our flowers, and they look like just blobs or flames or something right now. So now I'm going to take my black pen. It's just an ordinary black pen. Everyone's got one at home that they write with. And while these are drying, I'm going to start to draw the stems. So I just draw a line straight down from that main one. And depending where I'm going to write my wish, I'm going to maybe write my wish on this one on top. You could also write it on the bottom, so you would make all the lines come to one place. So like I said, for this one, I'm going to put the wish on the top, so I'll bring it down to about there. I'll do all the stems first, so I know where they're going. And rather than, you can't put them all come straight down, but I think that's kind of a little bit boring. So I'm going to make this flower stem come across from over here. And this one, it's going to have a little wiggle to it. It's all perfect. Then I don't want these two lines coming exactly to the same place, so I'm going to have this one come from over here. And then this one can go behind this flower and come down to here. It's interesting, the surface of my table is a little bumpy, so I'm getting a little bumpy in the stems, and that's totally fine. I'm not going to worry about that. Add to the piece, I think. So I've got those. Now I don't want these coming straight down. We're going to, it's almost like I put the beginning of the stem like almost equal distance apart. So this one's going to come to about here. So that's a good idea to know where your line's going to go to. So I'll take that. And bring it down to here. And then this one can come down here. So we have our stems. And I think that's an interesting composition. If you can do straight ones, and it can be kind of fun, but this is going to be, I like the kind of S curves that you get. You get them a lot in nature. So the first one I'm going to put leaves on is this one, and I'm going to put tiny little leaves. They're like little oval shapes, slightly with a point at the outside edge. Just little oval shapes, slightly pointy at the end. We're not going to be too fussy about it. Then we'll say these two were the same, so we're going to put little petals on this one too. And see how this one goes to the left, this one goes to the right, every other. If you look at plants, you'll see that that's kind of what happens. Moving up along the stem, just adding my tiny little leaves. So we've got those two. We're going to add some large leaves. Now that I've got those in place, I can find a place that the large leaf will work on this large flower. Put the center vein in that one. Now I've got a spot right here for another large leaf. Keep it a little bit away, you don't want it too close to the other plant. And then one more largish leaf right here. And that completes the stems on those three center flowers. And now this one, kind of make your own judgment. I'm going to put a medium-sized leaf on here because that's what I've got room for. On this side I've got room for a larger leaf. So I'm going to add a larger leaf. And so on this stem, I've got enough room for like a medium-sized leaf, or maybe even a small leaf. This side, of course, can take a large leaf. It's got a lot of space. I don't want it to be exactly the same as that, so I'll make it a little bit longer. Sometimes when you've got repetition, it's not as pleasing. It's nice to vary the size of the leaves. Okay, so up here, I'll add a medium-sized leaf, and maybe one more little one up here. Little happy leaves, all kind of curving upwards. So, okay, so we'll do this stem next. I'm going to, you can start at the bottom or the top, but you start on either the right or the left, and then move to the opposite side. And these are more roundy, just for fun, just for variety. And it's so easy. You can't draw an oval, and it doesn't even have to be an exact oval or round or circle. And this one, I'm going to add a couple of large leaves. So you can do the middle stem, the middle of the leaf first if you like, and then just kind of do like a half circle that's kind of pointy at one end. Okay, so now we've got our leaves. So these are still continuing to dry. This one's very wet, so we'll just let that dry while we move to paint our leaves. And in order to get green, we take a little bit of blue. We take a little bit of yellow. Look at that, we got a really nice, and the more yellow you put in, the brighter it'll go, the more blue, the darker it'll be. So we can, with my example, I've got a little bit of light green and a little bit of dark green, always for interest. So, and we don't worry about it, we keep it nice and watery, and it doesn't matter if it goes over the edges. We're not going to just paint inside the lines. That's kind of boring. So you're making little daubs. We're not worried about whether it goes over the line or not. So easy, so quick. Watery, so you can see the line through the paint. That's the lovely thing about watercolor. if you make it too thick, you don't use enough water, it becomes more like acrylic paint, so you can't see through it. But we like to see through it in watercolor. What we're seeing through it is the white of the paper, which makes it much brighter. Now that's really fun. I think that's really fun. It's bright and cheery, and you can see the white of the paper, which makes the color more luminous. So now, it's pretty just as it is, but in my design, which I showed you, I have these little dark petals at the base of each. And for this one, let's see, this pen is not working so well. Okay. So these little dark petals, they're barely visible here, but on the yellow they may be more visible. You know, if they look at the base of a flower, you'll see what used to hold it are these little, I don't think they're called petals, I'm not sure what they're called, but at the base of the leaf you'll see what opened up to allow the leaf to, or the flower to come out. It held the leaf before it was, or the petal before it was a flower. Filling in that with the black pen. I'm not going to touch that one because it's still wet. Still, is when you have too much water, it will stay wet much longer. If these have all dried, I could touch them and they would be just fine. So now part of our design, my design from what I showed you, has these little lines. These are like, they're actually what you see in the center, the stamens of the flower. But I'm just adding these for fun. Little dots on top. You don't have to add these if you don't want. If you're happy with your colorful little flowers without these, is totally fine. So they're basically little lines with dots on top. Just like you see at the center of a lot of flowers. That's what the bees come to, and they spread the flowers by touching these and gathering pollen. Okay, and then finally, if you want to, and I'll show you my example here, I've added these little white dots, and they just, I don't know, they add something to it. It's up to you. This is really pretty as it is. And you can use a white watercolor if you want, or you can use acrylic. I'm using an acrylic because an acrylic, especially when it comes to white, generally in watercolor we don't use white at all. We use the white of the paper whenever we want white. Just adding tiny little dots. I don't know if you can even see them. Just for interest. And trying to touch just the tippy top of the end of the brush to get like little dots. If you had watercolor, you could spatter. I sometimes like to do that, but it didn't have any white watercolor, so I think this does a perfectly good job. I think that's fine as is. So the last thing we do is we let this dry. Most of this is already dry, so that's except for this one. So I'm going to not touch that when I write my little wish up here. So I'm going to, in the best handwriting that you can muster, we'll write a little wish. On this one, I'm going to say, thinking of you. And if you want to do it in pencil beforehand, that's often a good idea because sometimes you'll start it here and it goes way too far on that side. So you want to center it. I'm pretty good at guessing these things. So I'm going to write you first because I want the U to be right about here, kind of like on the other one that I made. This is a Y. O, U. And then I'm going to do the of. And now I can decide, okay, so I want to start my thinking right about here. So my T, let's do a little fancy T. Thinking. Thinking of you. I'll add a little heart right here in the center to give it balance. And see how it ended up pretty much centered on my card. And so there we have it, all done. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. And I hope whoever receives your beautiful card appreciates it and knows that you're thinking of them, that you miss them, that you love them. Thanks again. Bye for now.